How does it look like if you are starting off in a niche genre like industrial metal, and what can you achieve? What I'm going to do is that I run you through the whole year of 2025. How is it to start off as an independent artist in 2025? There are loads of YouTube tutorials how to achieve 1 million streams. Usually they have a big catalog on Spotify and all the other streaming platforms, so they already have a certain momentum, or they might be in a very popular genre. So how does it look like if you are starting off in a niche genre like industrial metal, and what can you achieve? What I'm going to do is that I run you through the whole year of 2025, all my 10 releases until today, 2026, and I show you how I managed to steadily increase the streaming numbers, the listeners, and how all of a sudden at the end of the year it exponentially went up. And by the way, there are some amazing tutorials that I've also watched. So one I can really recommend is Andrew Southworth. So he's really a cool guy. And the interesting part with him is that he's doing all kinds of genres, but he's also having his own metal band, and sometimes also gives a little bit of insights what he's doing there. However, he's also one of the big guns there. So there's also Gent, there's others, and I will just drop some links in the comments. So I really recommend these. And also one part that I did is also I was taking the class from Andrew Southworth to also dig deeper into the details. But now let's start off and look at the numbers. Then let's dig into the details. So the first thing is, of course, I had 10 singles that I released in 2026, which was from 31st of Jan onwards every 6 weeks. A short break during the summertime, and then from 19th of December every 4 weeks, which is kind of a challenge as well. So having a release every 4 weeks is a lot of work, and it's like pretty exhaustive. Additionally, end of July, I also put the first 5 songs I put out as an EP, which also gave a little bit of a punch. So now let's dig into the details. Then we are going into Spotify for Artists. So first of all, let's look at the general numbers. Let's filter for 12 months because I started January 31st. And you see that at the beginning, so there was a little bit of a peak. That was for another day, where also like the campaign went with a pretty small budget very well. And I also achieved, I think within 4 or 5 weeks, 1,000 listeners. And this is one of the important things, because you always want to get your songs over the 1,000, because in the end, this gets you into the monetization in Spotify, which is a very big thing, of course, as a unknown independent artist. And this is a big achievement in the end. So that was with the first song, and then the others were pretty not that performing well, but also I had a little bit of troubles with meta ads, etc. And if we go further down, so there's like the next songs coming in, so it's like a pretty steady low listeners count. And when you look at then from August onwards, when I brought out like the first songs as an EP, which also brings an additional cross influences, so meaning that people listen to one, maybe more songs or something from you. The numbers burst, of course, additionally with a campaign involved into that. And then when we go further back in the year, we have the peak with the November song being Despair. And then, of course, Frantic is really hitting the ground quite hard and having loads of streaming numbers, listeners, streaming numbers, etc. Altogether, also from August onwards, you see there's a steady increase, and the increase then went further with Despair and then Frantic in the end. Primarily it was 19th of November, it was To an End, then October it was Sleepless, then Despair, and then Frantic. The other thing that I also did is that I created, of course, for all the different songs, canvas. So we have here all the different canvases, of course, so that there's a little bit of a visual experience. This is just how everything went. But you see that there's a pretty nice peak at the end, and also this means that you have to invest more, frankly spoken, That's the unfortunate part of it. So it costs you money in the end. However, so from a meta ads perspective, and there was a big change during this year when the Andromeda update came out, and there were a lot of people who were a little bit like scared and, you know, well, the segmentation, that doesn't work anymore, so it's only like a AI-based thingy. But in the end, for me, it worked out pretty well. However, we're gonna look at that later. So in the end, I was fooling around with several campaigns, as you see here. So down here, there's another day Spotify conversion campaign, which I set up in a way that was a little bit like, I would say, simplistic. However, I also started these days to watch the different YouTube tutorials, which I really recommend. So I paid like $172 here. Then a little bit more. Then we went to a ongoing worldwide thingy, $142. So we just look at maybe the graphs into this. And here you see that I also had like certain campaigns that I just recreated. I tried out certain things. I looked at the cost per click in the end, like $34 was a pretty nice and decent amount these days. However, if we look at this year, you know, there's a little bit of a peak when the campaign started, and I mean, it didn't go that bad. And when we look at the individual song, Another Day, and we go to the 12 month, you see that here was this really peak 172 streams, which is not that much, but hey, you know, it's for the first song, right? And then here it is like pretty stable on a low amount. Then it is rising here with in August with the EP again. And then there's like the big burst at the end of the year. At the end of the year, I can also talk you then through the Spotify popularity score, because that was also pretty interesting for the last song. So the other ones, I have to say, when we go back here, the campaigns, they weren't that successful in the end. So with My Time Hath Come, frankly spoken, so that was also a pretty decent campaign. So let's also filter here again. However, as you see, when we go to My Time Hath Come and also go to the 12 month, yeah, so this was at the beginning, you see it's really low numbers here, so it was not going that well. And I have one idea for My Time Hath Come why it didn't go well, because I think in general the song would be pretty good fitting into the genre, but as additionally also like the name is, I mean, I'm a fan, I'm a linguist, I'm a fan of like, you know, maybe doing early modern English stuff in there or whatsoever. So I even used like a mixture of Old English, Middle English, whatsoever. So you shouldn't do that. So next time I would just call it My Time Has Come, just saying. And if we go into that song, we're just playing the first couple of seconds. "29 seconds intro." Don't do that. So with the whole speed of social media, of like Spotify, with millions of trillions of songs coming out every time, it's not a good idea to have a 29 seconds intro, just saying. So, however, when we go back, then we are having like another song, which is then My Fight Begins. Burn My Shallow Ground, by the way, was a little too rough probably for the genre. And we can also look at that one, Burn My Shallow Ground, which was also doing like I mean, it's not really good numbers, right? But also what you see is that the later it goes the year, the better it does. But it's not the best one from a performance perspective. And then we have My Fight Begins, 12 months. And here you see also like the peak comes at the end, right? So pretty stable, but that already went a little better here from a campaign perspective. And maybe, yeah, this is my time has come, so maybe let's go directly to My Fight Begins. My Fight Begins. Here, Spotify campaign. So at the beginning, I also did a little bit like a low budget tier 3 campaigns, and the rest was always like the tier 1 and 2 campaigns. By the way, also Andrew Southwest has a really good template for leveraging tier 1, tier 2, which is also updating regularly. So that's pretty good thing. So here you see also like the budget is now increasing. I even had a break in here, then I put another box in. So that's how that looked like. So now when we look at, I mean, of course, also like there are the several ad groups. These days, I still had like, you know, ad groups for different target groups, etc. So that was still the old meta ad thingy. So where you primarily, when we look at that, tier 1, tier 2, then growth ad group. Let's go here. So meaning that you had the main campaign. I think I don't need to go through all the different things. So daily budget, etc., etc. So I think there are really good videos from other people who can explain it a lot better. And then we have like different campaigns based on the target audiences. So with the countries, with the age, and then also like the interest. And as you see here, you have the Spotify streaming, and then I had like a couple of interests put in, like, you know, that were narrowing down the target group. This was then the same thing for tier 1. And this one was the same for, let me see. Yeah, I think this is more than a growth ad group, so I called them. So this is like tier, I think it's tier 3 then. Yes, exactly, it's tier 3. So I'm not going to do that anymore. So I will also show you that then later, and also how that all went together. But maybe one thing, so if we go into the ad group, and we go in here, so then there's also a couple of visuals. I always worked with different kinds of visuals. This is one visual. Then we had like a more general visual with the logo in the background. We had like this swimming lady. Also had some really cool help from one of my friends to support with the videos. Then there's more like a video from the music video that I punched in. Another one. And also like all the different videos, they are like different parts of the song, so that you can also figure out, or Facebook can figure out which is going well. Is it like the chorus? Is it like the verse? Is it the bridge, etc.? So I'm trying to live, step up with my past. So that was one of the ads, and this one is the bridge, but doesn't really matter, just to give you a little bit of a glimpse. So, and this is like separated into each of the different ad groups. So, and I split it these days, tier 1, tier 2, and the growth ad groups. Also, during the course of the campaign, I stopped certain things to support Facebook a bit, to identify which of the ad groups and which of the visuals, etc., is going well, is not going well. I'm not going to do that anymore, frankly spoken, since the Andromeda update. So, all right. So also like, I think at a certain point in time, so I was using at the beginning Submit Hub. Here's also like one of the links, for example, from SubmitHub, where you could already get some nice information like the clicks, etc. And also I have a industrial metal favorites playlist that I also promoted at a certain point in time. And let me see when they first started that. I think that was also quite early. And I always put only a little bit into that. But that grew kind of nice, I have to say. So wait a second, empty playlist promo. I think this is the first one where I did that. And you see that there was an amount of $5. This was only a short time here, but I just proceeded with a playlist for almost each and every. I think that might be the playlist, because here you see I also switched to Hyped It in the end. But here it is. So here you see that this is already on Hyped It, and this is primarily promoting a Spotify playlist. But this playlist also, when we look at, this is now the playlist that at the moment, the last 7 days are running. Let's do that to 28 days. So there you see you have radio, you have mixes, release radar, discover weekly, day list. And then here you have the editorial playlists, and actually the industrial metal favorites playlist is doing pretty well, and there's also quite a good number of listeners onto that and streams, and there are also like some other ones, so from promotional activities, etc. in there, but there are also some new ones, frankly spoken, that I haven't seen before, so I don't know what that is. But in the end, yeah, what you want to achieve in the end is that you get onto radio, onto mixes, release radar, discovery weekly, etc. So the next thing I probably have to do is that I hit more on sleepless, because that is now getting into discovery weekly, having some listeners, some streams, not many, last 28 days, but that might be worth it. The interesting part that we are coming then. Let's go to Hyped It and let's look. So there's one campaign at the moment running. So this is like my playlist campaign that I'm running directly from Hyped It. And I also have, let's go into all the campaigns. Has to load now, I guess. To an end, grow my Spotify playlist. And we have to show all time, I guess. So here you see that the playlist campaign was also going pretty well in the end. So also like Spotify popularity score. You see here, this is pretty interesting, because actually track popularity is here 14, artist and track popularity 10 is also increasing here. So, however, these numbers I think a little bit off, because actually I stopped the campaign, and I think somehow then the numbers are a little bit like, not that perfect anymore. So when we go to the dashboard and we just look at the most recent one, which is $10 a day, and there you see that, there's quite some traction on these. Also like Spotify popularity score of the track is 26, of the artist grew to 14, and the actual list has now 699 saves, which is a really, really nice number. What I didn't use Hyped It for is the campaigns for the tracks, because actually Hyped It is offering, or offered in the past before the recent update, only like 3 visuals or something like that. So now Hyped It has this wonderful functional bonus tools where you can create videos from your song. So each and every one of these is a ad. And this I created with the ad video maker. However, I downloaded all of them and then I put it into a manual campaign. So meaning that this campaign is manually set up. So again, there are really cool tutorials how to set this up. By the way, at the moment it's at $10, but I also will show you how I managed with the whole budgeting for this one. because there are also some other things to take into consideration. So there is the target group. Then what I did is, so I think if Hyped It is pushing it over to, so I created the whole thing and Hyped It. However, I then deleted a couple of these ad campaigns, took one and changed it as I wanted to, because I wanted to have the Spotify streaming service as the top targeting and then like the single ones. However, I probably for the next promotion, I probably try the Hyped It thingy itself. So that's all the standard. And then there's like all these different, ads. So different imagery, parts of the song. And here you see, for example, one that I've just taken from the music video. And then there's also like just more of these visualizations. And as you see, like for this campaign, it's like a whole lot of stuff, a whole lot of visuals that are added, then copied into the next ad group, changed the targeting to here it's rock music, then copied it again into subculture, changed it to subculture, then changed it to gothic culture. So all these sort of things, but it's primarily all the same, but I just separated these different target groups. 17, 12, 20, 25 until, yeah, that's fine. So now, and here you see the smart link clicks from Hyped It, which is like 400, the first, I think that was the 20th, the 90th. So here the campaign started. And the first couple of days, when we go to the amount, I had it on $85. And then I reduced it to 60, to 50, went back to 60 maybe. And now I am at the moment at, I think, $10, but I'm having in parallel the playlist promotion campaign running. So the cost per click is amazing. The first couple of days it was bad, and then it went, or let's say bad, I mean $39. I would have been happy, like for my past campaigns before this one, if that would have been $39 or something, but then it went down to 23, 19, etc. So really amazing, and quite a lot of link clicks on the Hyped It page. And also when we then look at the Hyped It page, so I can't look at that campaign, of course. No, I can look at the smart links, because that was, I think, the frantic smart link, this one here. And there you see how it also evolved for the last 28 days. So, from the visits, link clicks, visits, etc. Blue one is the link clicks, gray one is the visits, how that all went further up and up. And then also when we go back to the dashboard and to the campaigns, the interesting part is if you run a playlist campaign on this very specific song, as I did, so the Frantic is the first song in the playlist, and if I now go in here, we also see why this went kind of wellish, this campaign, because for whatever reason, can't tell you why. Of course, a big burst at the beginning, where I bumped a lot of money in there, and then I reduced it, and you see that even though I reduced the money at the moment now back to $10, it is still doing pretty nice. And the interesting part is the popularity score. And this is probably why also this song is more and more getting into the different playlists, and why also others are pulled into it. So that's exactly what you want to achieve in the end, that the popularity score rises. And then also when you go into Frantic, let's go into Frantic. So I can stay at the last 28 days, right? So this only made in the last 28 days 6,480 streams, 3,480 listeners. For one song, 1.88 is, I think, decent. 630 playlists as 1,182 saves, which is really, really nice. And here is that the popularity score. So here's the campaign, you know, even though the campaign was so high, like $85 at the beginning, going now down to $10, and it's still keeping up. So that's really interesting. So if we compare that, for example, with Despair, first 28 days, you see Despair was also not that bad, but in the end, you see like how the difference is between the two. And now let's take Sleepless, which is now dropping into Discover Weekly. Sleepless was not doing too bad, and I think Sleepless was the first campaign where I hit. It was already at 2,600 streams within the first 4 weeks, roughly. So, which was a big achievement already. So I was really happy about that. However, of course, you know, the really big thing came then with Frantic. So in general, that's how I went in there. And I think the important tools to use, of course, is in the end, you know, use something like, you know, where I can have multiple visuals being created. You could also do that manually, but I think using Hyped is really nice. You just primarily choose a couple of images, have a search, you choose a couple of images from, I think, Pixels or something. And then it creates you the visuals. You just download them, store them. What is always helpful is if you have certain kinds of performance videos. I usually do some in the vocal booth, or maybe even like in front of the green screen, which is more kind of like the, you know, music video kind of touchy thing, or a lyrics video, whatever you want to call it. But I think that's exactly what you should do. And of course, investing. So, and the investment is something that is very, very important. But this also is like bringing you something in the end, because what you are doing in the first year and in the second year and maybe even the third year is that you're investing into your music and you're figuring out what works well, what doesn't work well. And of course, keeping your eye open about changes, you know, just keep on watching the different channels about music marketing strategies, because they will always give you some updates, some hints whatsoever. But in the end, yes, of course, you have to compare it to where you are at the moment. This is the important thing. So I think for niche genres or any other thing, it's probably pretty unrealistic to say like, I want to have like, you know, 10,000 listeners in this and that many months, and I want to have like 1 million streams or something. I think for niche genres, it takes a little longer, but it's worth investing. And that's what you have to do in the end. Hope that this video was somehow of interest for you. Hope you liked it. And if you have any questions, just drop me a comment.